See anyone in flight control?
No, nobody.
Developing a game is no easy task. Once you've got a concept, there's so much that goes into it. Modeling weapons, enemies, environments, writing the behind-the-scenes code, creating enemy behavior, testing mechanics, writing a story. The list just keeps going. So it's not surprising that a lot of content, no matter how awesome it might look on paper, ends up being cut for one reason or another. Thanks to one of my channel members who asked if I could cover Dead Space, I went digging into the necromorphs, and while doing so, I found out there were several enemies cut from the franchise. That got me thinking, it'd be really fun to make a video looking at them in detail. The Commander was an early prototype necromorph planned as a sort of mini-boss, similar to the Brute. Concept art shows a creature with many appendages sprouting from its top, possibly designed to be more agile and capable of climbing walls and ceilings. The name suggests that its encounters might have involved it commanding other necromorphs, forcing players to fight through waves before reaching it. Those appendages could also have served a role similar to the Infectors, reanimating corpses into necromorphs to then be commanded by the creature. Art director Ian Millam mentioned in a Game Informer article that the team was experimenting with ways to make players slow down and immerse themselves in the world through organic, logical design rather than artificial mechanics. The flytrap was meant to serve that role. It was a necromorph suspended from the ceiling by its hands and feet, its skin ripped off the front with innards dangling from its torso. Half environmental hazard and half enemy, it was designed to lure the player in before striking. First, you'd have to dismember its lure to shock it and knock it down. Then, like a thrashing fish, it would flop around wildly but still remain dangerous. Their description makes me picture them as something close to the Guardians, those stationary necromorphs fused into the creeping corruption spreading through the station. They make up for their lack of mobility with devastating attacks, able to instantly kill any unsuspecting victim who wanders too close. Although it went through several revisions before ultimately being cut, traces of the flytrap design can still be seen at the very beginning of Dead Space 2. The Grave Robber was created exclusively for the animated film Dead Space Downfall, but was cut, most likely due to time constraints. It stood on 4 legs, with 3 jawless heads and massive pincers. The body itself looked like exposed muscle, covered in a carapace of bone armor. The most disturbing part was its back, where half-absorbed human bodies were embedded into its flesh. The storyboards for the monster scene show that some of the assimilated corpses would have included the still-moving remains of Ramirez, Samuel Irons, and Heather, characters who had been previously killed. In the film, slashers are shown piling corpses in the mess hall, and it has been speculated that this behavior was meant to set the stage for the Grave Robber's creation. Its intended role was to consume the bodies, folding them into its biomass to grow stronger and more powerful. Originally, it was supposed to pursue Alyssa Vinson before being smashed by the Ishimura's centrifuge, which might even explain the centrifuge malfunction Isaac later encounters. The Swinger was an early necromorph prototype from the first Dead Space. Ben Wanat, the production designer and later creative director for the franchise, shared concept art and details about it. It was composed of 2 bodies, a main torso, and a long tail made of twin tentacles. It used these to swing across ceilings, hence the name. Once its tail was severed, it would crash to the ground, split into 2 monsters, and chase the player. It could also spit corrosive acid from throat sacs that doubled as weak points. Time and budget constraints cut it from the game, but the design was seriously ambitious. The next 2 creatures aren't truly cut enemies, since they eventually appeared in Dead Space Extraction for the Wii, but both were originally planned for the first game before being scrapped. The Grabber is a necromorph that relies on surprise to catch its prey off guard. It disguises itself as an ordinary corpse, waiting until the victim gets close enough before suddenly striking. The creature also appears in the animated film Aftermath.
It's my roommate Jenny. Oh, praise the marker.
However, here it takes on the form of a crying woman, a difference that ultimately serves the same purpose of luring in its target before attacking.
Right behind us. Come on, Doc, we gotta go!
The other creature that appears only in Dead Space Extraction for the Wii is the Flyer. Glenn Schofield explained that it didn't work well in practice and wasn't fun to fight, so it was scrapped. Later, elements of it were reused in the Infector. Early concept art showed a much larger creature. It's easy to imagine this thing bursting toward humans, wrapping them up and transforming them into necromorph. Also worth noting, it's the only true flying enemy concept we've seen in the franchise. If you've played Dead Space, you don't have to think long before remembering your first encounter with a Regenerator-type enemy. The first of its kind appears in Chapter 5, Lethal Devotion. Its creation begins when Dr. Mercer inserts a piece of necromorph tissue directly into the skull of a live crew member, Brant Harris. The transformation is slow, but once complete, Dr. Mercer keeps the creature, now called the Hunter, stored in stasis inside the chemistry lab on the medical deck. When Isaac finally meets Mercer, the Doctor releases it. The bully was believed to have played a similar role. Found in Dead Space 2's game files, it used the same sounds as Regenerator-type enemies, shared animation, and AI behavior. The name Bully itself suggests that, much like its predecessor, it would have stalked the player relentlessly and been unkillable by normal means, forcing you to evade or find another way to destroy it. Despite being almost fully modeled and implemented, it was ultimately scrapped and replaced by the Ubermorph, a new Regenerator variant. This version not only differs in design, but also appears to lead other necromorphs, which some believe hints that it could be a lesser form of a hive mind, a necromorph capable of relaying orders from the Brethren moons.